Finally, I want to learn more about these fighting sequences in general. There aren't a lot of games that we played that had really the satisfaction that we found that you can find in Shadow of Mordor, where you can fight hundreds of orcs, explode things, ride monsters, assassinate targets. And so what this does is it gives a really rich, compelling gameplay for Shadow of Mordor.
Although your first reference is Lazy Gamer.
Yeah. It's all the images. All right. Yeah.
Screen, please.
All right. So, play. All right, my game is Super Time Force Ultra. Ultra means it came out for the PC. This game came out in the last half year, and I love it a lot. It does a lot of good things I'm going to tell you about. So I'm going to wait for the next slide. Come on. Okay. All right. There's a lot going on in this first image. We can see bullets flying, beams of light, people jumping. All this is just one instant of the hectic fun found in Super Time Force. However, you may notice there are duplicate characters on the screen. All these characters are moving at the same time and are controlled by you, the player. How is this possible? Because you are the Super Time Force. You have the power over time. Has it changed yet? Okay. You're probably wondering what that actually means. You start a level with a character you're choosing, and you go and kill everything in your path. Mechanically, you're playing a side-scrolling shooter. However, the game is so absurdly hard that you will die. In fact, even if you go through an entire level without dying, there's still a time limit on how long you can take to finish. Bosses have so much health that it is literally impossible to complete with one character. Here you're seeing the rewind screen. It sort of looks like a rewinding VCR, doesn't it? When you die, you can rewind time up to any point where you died. Once you found somewhere that you want to be, you can respawn there as a character and choose and try again. However, your previous dead character is fighting right there with you. This means you could potentially end up with 20 or even 30 characters on screen at the same time. We can see what happens in death on this screen right here. I rewinded to a point in time that I'm happy with, and I'm choosing my character. But say I wanted to save someone who had just died and gain the power-up, I could choose the shield guy and protect him, or I could choose someone else and kill the offending enemy. The more people you save, the more devastating you become as a character. When you're playing through the levels and story of the game, you come across new characters that you can add to your roster. For example, in this screen, I just unlocked Saxton Hill. There's also a character that shoots 3 bullets out of his weapon at the same time, someone that shoots lasers that go through walls, a shield bearer, a rocket launcher, a skateboarding dinosaur named Zachosaurus, and Cleopatra, just to name a few. The humor in Super Time Force is top-notch. It oozes in everything from character design to the overtop story to levels and enemy design. For example, one mission is to save Atlantis from sinking into the ocean. However, Atlantis is actually an offshoot of Florida, filled with mermaid hippies and held up by a god. To save the city and prevent the god from dumping his burden, you have to give the god an enormous sandwich while protecting his head from attacks. This is the god. There's also something to be said about the art. The studio is a big fan of pixel art and one of the few indie studios not to use it as an excuse for real art. This may not be the best example, but the game's art assets are painstakingly created. Might have gone too fast. Overall, this is a super unique game with a crazy good implementation of time as a mechanic. There's no other game that's really done the same thing. There's great artwork, solid shooting mechanics, top-notch humor, colorful characters, absurd levels, and Force of Time make for a super compelling gaming experience. Even from the technical level, the thought of keeping track of so many characters' timelines is really impressive. Super Time Force is a paragon of great game design. Super Turd Force. That's funny, isn't it? All right.
I'm pretty sure everyone knows which game I chose, just because I talk about it so much. And even though it's not really accessible on all platforms, it's still what I think every game developer should play at least once. So Bungie is a very unique game studio, I believe. They employ a lot of things to help improve on replayability, and they're one of the only game developers that I think try and go for my favorite philosophy, and that is of Kaizen. Kaizen is this philosophy of constant improvement. Even when you can't see the next improvement step, they continue to find ways to improve. And they did this through really great systems in Halo 3. They improved their ability to improve in the future. Because everyone knows that like consoles have a lot of restrictions when it comes to sending out updates and improvements to your game. It takes so much time for you to send out these improvements. So they've employed things like Forge mode. Forge mode allows you to completely edit all of these in-game models to any way that you like, and you can even employ them to create things that the developer Bungie didn't even know they could do. Bungie saves the game states as a whole, so even game modes can be changed. You can create racetracks, you can create Jenga towers, you can even play chess in Halo. This completely improves the replayability factor for Halo. So whole communities are forged out of this. There's the communities for forging itself, and there's also the communities for art, for example. You create these forge models, you put the guns in these places, and then you can go into this mode called theater. In theater mode, you can go around, you can take clips, you can share these clips, you can take screenshots of these and share them as a whole new medium for art. But if you have all these new files, like how are you going to share them? On their website, externally from the game, you can share everything on your own page. You organize the way all of your files are shared, from game types to game modes to maps to screenshots. Everything is shared here. It also has a collection of all of the data from all your games. You can go back to your first game in 2007 and see all the detailed listings. Also, with this, you have the rankings on this website. Ranking is a huge deal when it comes to multiplayer gaming. If you don't have ranking, you're paired up against people that are leagues ahead of you. You're not going to have any fun. It's going to be 0 to 50 every single time. They employed the true skill ranking system, which I believe everyone should attempt to create an algorithm such as that. And while Halo did have a better story than Twilight, it's still a singular linear campaign. It's going to get boring. You can only play something so many times. This is why you should employ things like Easter eggs and skulls like they did in Halo. They were puzzles that you had to achieve to get achievement points in the game. And finally, I would just like to iterate that game music is just as important as film music is. To have a good soundtrack like from the works of Martin O'Donnell, it empowers this new feeling, like it reinforces the feeling that you're trying to give off by your narratives. Yeah.
So today I'm going to be talking to you about Starcraft 2. So Starcraft 2 is a real-time strategy game by Blizzard Entertainment, and it's sort of a unique game that has a unique role within what's called esports, which are competitive gaming. So the first Starcraft was actually the first game to ever be an esport. It had a following of casual players who watched the best of the best, paid lots of money for lots of tickets, just like you would with any sporting event such as football or soccer. And then Blizzard said, okay, we're gonna redo this. It was a big thing by accident, so let's make StarCraft 2. And so in StarCraft, there are 3 races. There's Terran, Protoss, and Zerg. Terrans are supposed to be sort of futuristic humans. Protoss are the ones with the lasers, and they're like futuristic alien. And Zerg are just a biological evolutionary mistake, sort of, that swarm, and you have all these, sort of paths. And this is a picture from StarCraft 2 professional match. This is OGN Worlds, where hundreds of thousands of people are sitting in a stadium watching people on a screen. And Blizzard realized that something was really important. In order for a game to actually become an esport like this, you need to be able to watch it. It needs to be something that's exciting. And so what they've done is they've actually designed sort of a stage and esports presence for this so that the casual player can sit there, watch on 1 to 3 screens, see the players, see their experiences as they're doing these crazy things with up to 600 actions per minute. And so they realized that they didn't need something that you could just play at home. They needed something that you could follow and people to recognize. And so this is Day 9 TV, who was the face of StarCraft 2 for over 5 years. He has over 500 videos that he would post sometimes 5 times a week, where he would just talk to you about, this is what's going on in StarCraft 2, and have all sorts of fun jokes and competitions people could enter. And so he would have crazy strategies like this, where you could just say, you can only make these 2 units. and then you'd watch a bunch of videos of the best ones, the best fails, the best good ones. But the nice thing about StarCraft 2 is there's no limit to what you can do with your strategy. You can make all one unit, or what's more common is you'll make sort of this diverse comp like this, where you have Colossus, Stalkers, and you have all these crazy battles, but there's no direct one-to-one counter. You have to be smart about it. You have to sort of make all these trade-offs in order to have an effective composition. And so that's what makes StarCraft 2 engaging to play for the casual gamer, but also what has made this high skill cap and scene. And one final thing that I wanted to talk about was everything in StarCraft 2 is autonomous. They're issuing 600 actions per minute to individual units, but once you send them on their way, they're either pathed, queuing, or thinking about doing something else. So the possibilities of this game are pretty endless and autonomous in themselves.
All right, good morning, everybody. As you can see, my name is Dalton Hoos, and I'll be advocating for Upgrade Complete, adding it to the Lab 1 canon. Over the next 3 minutes, I'd like to talk about how the game is played, what makes it work, what makes it unique, and what we can learn from it. And in just a couple seconds, we should switch to a picture of the gameplay itself. Yeah, there we go. So you control this white ship, which gets more complex, as we'll see later, firing purple bullets at red enemy spaceships in 20 waves. When you kill enemies, they drop coins. You can use those coins to pay for upgrades, which, as the name upgrade suggests, exist in quite an abundance. This is the upgrade ship screen. So you can see there on the far left that you can have 12 parts to your ship, and each of those parts has 5 levels. And so you can highly customize what your ship looks like and what it does and how effective it is as a means of killing these enemies. But there are more upgrades than just that. The game starts you off telling you that you need to upgrade the game by buying a shop for $400, but you don't have $400, so it gives you $1,000. And the second thing you do is buy a preloader with menu buttons and a save system. And so you can see a greater sample of what the upgrades are for the game itself. Some of the amusing ones, you can buy music and a mute button, and then you have save states. But there are upgrades in addition to this. You can see up there in the top left, that's what your very basic menu screen looks like. And as you continue to earn coins by defeating enemies, you gain money that you can use to change the background. So you can see the background progress from this gray to this purple. You can change the menu buttons, you can change the title, the copyright text changes, and there are even further upgrades to the game itself. So as I said, the game starts out in that 8-bit in the top left. And as you continue to earn coins, you can spend money, which upgrades the graphics capabilities and kind of takes you on a history of what graphics have looked like in gaming. So you can see kind of how the ship upgrades as well. And what makes this unique from the other games in our canon, it kind of fits in the same environment as Rockets, Rockets, Rockets does with the shooting enemies in space. But it has an absurdity level factor that goes beyond something like Lollipop. And I think this makes it a unique game. It's nice to see something that makes fun of itself. And this humility, I think, is really important to this game. As game designers, it's really easy to come up with a really cool idea that you have and want to make the best game ever. But being humble and recognizing that you can make a game work with simple graphics and a simple game mechanic, I think is really it's something important for us to realize. Another thing I think that's important to pull from this game is, even though it has a linear flow as far as like defeating the waves of enemies, it has such an open access and gives the player so much control over what gets upgraded next, whether that be your ship or something in the game where you add music, where you change the graphical capabilities of your game. I think having that adds a lot of depth for no extra work. There are my acknowledgements.
Okay, for my presentation, I decided to do The Last of Us. When I played this game, I enjoyed it so much.